About a year ago, I came across a statistic that stopped me in my tracks. Women are adopting AI at a 25% lower rate than men. I did not need a researcher to explain what that meant. I felt it. I recognized it. That gap has a texture. It's the feeling of watching a conversation accelerate around you and not quite knowing how to step into it. But when I found that stat, I knew I wanted to do something about it. And what happened next taught me 5 things I did not expect. And the 5th one surprised me the most. My name is Wiktoria, and I'm the founder of Women Lead AI, and this is my Oxford talk. I posted a video talking about this stat, just me talking to my phone saying, I find this unacceptable, and asking whether anyone wanted to do something about it. Hundreds of women responded, from different countries, different industries, different career stages, and almost all of them said the same sentence. I know I need to do something with AI. I just do not know where to start. And I feel like everyone else already does. That feeling of being behind, of the train having left, of technology moving at a speed that was not designed for people with full-time jobs and no computer science background. That is the problem, and it is entirely the wrong feeling to have, because nobody is as far ahead as they look. The people who seem confident with AI are, in most cases, simply people who started trying before they felt ready. That is the only difference. And that gap between waiting to feel ready and deciding to start is entirely closable. So I built a community around that idea, a place where starting before you feel ready is not just acceptable, it is the whole point. When people hear that women are behind on AI, they reach for the familiar explanation. Not enough women in computer science, not enough women in tech, a pipeline problem. And the conclusion, we need to fix that pipeline. That framing leads to solutions that take a decade to show results. And it misses something more urgent. Because the women reaching out to me, they were not students. They were professionals, marketeers, lawyers, founders, HR directors, consultants. Skilled, experienced, already working at the center of their industries. The pipeline is not their problem. I believe the real issue is not representation, it is authorship. You see, every technology has 2 groups of people in relationship with it. There are those who offer it, who use it, shape it, feed their real problems into it, and by doing so, influence how it develops. And there are those who are simply the audience, who receive whatever gets built, designed around someone else's assumptions. When women adopt AI at a 25% lower rate, they're not just missing a productivity tool. They're sitting on the audience side of a divide that is hardening right now. Because AI learns from its users, it gets better at the tasks people bring to it, which means the gap in who is using these tools today is quietly becoming a gap in whose needs these tools will serve tomorrow. The pipeline conversation asks, how do we get more women into AI? The authorship conversation asks, how do we get the women who are already everywhere, in every industry, every role, every organization, onto the author side of that divide? That is a much faster problem to solve. But if the problem is authorship, why is access not the solution? There are free tools everywhere, tutorials on every platform. Any woman with a laptop and an internet connection can technically start today. Harvard researchers tested exactly this. They gave women in Kenya equal access to AI tools. Same tool, same instructions, same time as the men in the study. The gap did not close. Women were still 13% less likely to engage. Because the barrier was never the tool, it was the environment around the tool. Women are more likely to worry about being judged for using AI incorrectly, more likely to wait until they fully understand something before trying it. more likely to be outside their informal networks, the lunchtime conversations, the early pilots, where real AI literacy actually forms. What closes the gap is not access, it is psychological safety. An environment where trying something and getting it wrong is just called learning, where you do not have to pretend to know more than you do. Where the question, "I do not understand this, can someone explain it differently?" is not a liability, it is the whole point. That environment does not happen by accident. It has to be built deliberately. That is what a community is for. Now, the fifth thing I learned, the one that surprised me most, when I started Women Lead AI, I thought I was going to be doing most of the teaching. I had tools I had been experimenting with, things I had learned. I would share what I knew, and people would show up to learn. What I had not accounted for was this. I did not know very much, and the members knew so much more than me. On our very first call, Megan joined. She introduced herself as a PhD coordinator at a university, someone with no AI at work. This is purely a hobby, she said. And then she walked us through how she had built and deployed a live web application, using a tool I had never heard of, connecting it to GitHub and pushing it live, without writing a single line of code herself. And I'm sitting there, the founder of the community, furiously taking notes. I learned more in that 1 hour than I had in the previous 2 weeks alone. And that is when I understood what this community actually was. Not a classroom with an expert at the front. A room full of women who are all figuring it out, and who, when given the chance to share what they know, will teach each other faster and more relevantly than any curriculum I could design. The answer to the learning problem is not a better teacher, it is a better room. The 25% gap is going to close. The research shows it is moving faster than anyone predicted. But here's the part that does not get said enough. It is not closing evenly. It is closing fastest in places where women have visible peers who are using these tools, talking about them openly, and making it normal for others to try. Which means the women who are still on the audience side of the divide are not there because they are incapable or uninterested. They are not there because they have not yet found a room. Megan introduced herself on that first call as someone with no computer science background. By the end, she had shown a live deployed application she had built herself for a real problem at her job, because she could not find an existing tool that did what she needed. She is a PhD coordinator, not a developer, not a technologist, just someone who found a room where it was safe to try, and walked out of that room as an author. There are thousands of Megans, women who arrive as audience members and leave as authors. The only question is whether they find a room. I've built one, and I would love for you to help me fill it.